Hi, everyone. Good evening. How's everyone doing? I see that earlier Mrs. Newton's Big Family, Big Noise came into the building. Elevate with Vern, the mother and daughter duo. Hi, how is everyone doing? I hope you all doing well this evening. Woo, I decided to come live. If you do not know Elevate with Vern, I highly recommend that you check her out, grab her up. Vern, if you are in a building, please put your link to your channel in the comment section. So, Vern was live earlier, and I went up and was hanging out with her for a little bit on her live. She shared the link and I came up, and she has so much energy. If you don't know, she is the YouTube cheerleader extraordinaire. And I was like, oh my goodness, I'm gonna probably be up all night with Vern, because of the energy that Vern just gave off. And you know what? That energy is life. That is what life is all about. That good energy, having a good time, connecting with people that have minds similar to yours, people that are good, people that are honest, authentic, supportive, caring, compassionate. And those are all the things that describe Vern. So Elevate with Vern is in the building. And please, Vern, put your link down in the chat so everybody can check you out, because you are definitely that one. And I'm so proud of all the things that are coming up for you, the things that you've done thus far, but also the things that are yet to come for sure. Definitely. I see cool gamers in the building. Hello, how are you doing this evening? How are you doing? And I guess you all could see from the title of this, do you remember doing this? How many of you grew up going to Halloween parties, trick or treating, and just hanging out with your friends on October 31st? And if you've gone to Halloween parties or even some kind of fall festival, and if you were a kid in the 60s, 70s, and early 80s, I'm wondering, do you remember doing this? Do you remember dunking and bobbing for apples? Tell me in the chat, have you done that? And thank you, Vern, for putting your channel in the chat. And you all grab her up, grab her up. Do y'all remember doing that? Did you do that? Bob for apples? Or were you around when bobbing for apples was happening? Maybe you were one of those kids that knew better and was like, ew, that's a lot of saliva in there. Yuck. I'm not going to bob after anyone. I'll go first, but I definitely don't want to bob after anyone. Yes, you may have done it in school once. And see, that's the thing, Vern. Just imagine they used to do this bobbing for apples in homes, like if somebody was having a birthday party and their birthday was in the fall, they may have had friends over and they're bobbing for apples. Churches, I remember doing it at church for our fall festival. Schools, in school, in the early grades, sometimes for parties, classroom fall parties, they would have bobbing for apples. That right there, when you think about it, it is one of the most disgusting things that a person could ask a child or anyone to do. And I know that, again, if you were growing up in the 60s, 70s, and early 80s, that is something that you may have encountered. And I'm just here to tell you that, I'm glad that is one thing that they kind of took away. But when you were a child, I mean, I'm talking about the saliva and everything, the backwash and whatnot from all the other kids. But as a kid, you really didn't think about that. You were really excited about having your turn to do that. Well, today is October 31st, and I know many, many people, especially if you are of Christian faith, do not celebrate this or do not, do this activity, trick or treating, Halloween. But I do know, and just being transparent, as a child, I definitely did go trick or treating, and so did my husband. And because of that, we allowed our children to experience that. And we did not have them focus on the holiday as a a bad thing, like, with witches and demons and things of that nature. We looked at it as a time for them to just be kids, and that one day out of the year to be able to eat candy to their heart's desire, get their fill of all types of candy. So I just remember growing up and going trick or treating in my neighborhood with my dearest friends. My last time going trick or treating, I believe I may have been in around maybe sixth or seventh grade. And I was a roller derby person. That was very ambitious. I literally wore roller skates going to people's homes, going up and down stairs to the front door, which was so crazy at the time. What were some of your most memorable Halloween costumes if you went trick or treating as a kid? What were some of your most memorable costumes? Again, that year, I just remember at the time initially thinking, oh, this is a great idea. I'll be able to just kind of coast because I used to roller skate all over the place back in the day. What? People would roller skate like walking. I don't know if y'all remember the show Facts of Life, but Kim Fields, who on the Facts of Life, her name was Tootie, and she roller skated everywhere. It was about these girls, these young girls that went to a boarding school, and they lived in a house together because, they lived away from home. And Tootie, Kim Fields, she used to have these bangs and two ponytails, and she was the only person of color, the only black girl on that show. And I loved it. I mean, she would roller skate all over that house in the living room, kitchen. Just, she never wore regular shoes, she only wore roller skates. And so I loved roller skates, not because of her, but that was just a thing to do back in the day. I had a white pair with a big red pom pom with the bell on the front. But I remember practicing on using one of my neighbor's roller skates. And he was a guy and he had one pair. He had the first pair of roller skates out of our whole crew, and we all took turns using his roller skates practicing. They were too big, but it was still, good practice. But once I got my own pair, I would remember, even going to the grocery store for my mother sometimes, the one that was close to our home, and going grocery shopping with my roller skates on. But that year that I, was a roller derby person, I I just know it was challenging going up and down the stairs of my neighbors. And then I think the year before that, I dressed up as a school person, a schoolgirl. Just didn't even want to be that creative. That's what I knew. You know what? Let me stop going trick or treating because I'm not even trying at this point. I'm just wearing my regular school clothes, talking about I'm a sixth grader or whatever grade I was in at the time. But my children, they used to love dressing up. And it got to a point because my daughters, they also did dance growing up. I would just put their dance recital uniform on, whatever it was, whatever kind of tutu, dance dress, whatever. Sometimes they would have like pants, kind of like a Britney Spears looking type of outfit, whatever, and that would be their Halloween costume. My son always put on one of my husband's old jerseys and shoulder pads and helmet, and he was always a football player for Halloween. And I remember their elementary school would have what they called book character dance. So instead of it being Halloween, they called it book character dance. And all the students in the school would just dress up as their favorite book character. It could be Spider Man, Wonder Woman, or whatever, but they would just dress up like that. And each grade level, the teachers would pick one book and be that theme. It could be Pippi Longstocking, The Wizard of Oz, and the whole grade level, the teachers would dress up in that character. So it was really cool, lots of fun. It was in the evening, it was open to all the family. So many of the families had the students had younger siblings, they could come and they would have food and music, and it was a really really good time. So if you have young children or grandchildren or whatever, and they're trying to figure out what to do that's not Halloweenish. Think about a book character dance or a book character party. It's really a great idea, and the school would use it as a fundraiser. So because there was food, they would sell tickets, and so each family would, I think it might have been maybe $2 to $5 a person, and so the PTA would also raise money during doing that. So it was always a great turnout. But we didn't want our children to not experience it, because we experienced it and had a great time. We were safe with it. And so we just really ensured that our children were safe whenever they did go trick or treating. We would always take them. And I'm really talking about this because I forgot it was Halloween today. And my daughter and I went shopping and we came home, and in our neighborhood a lot of kids were they come to our neighborhood, and to get the, I guess, the good candy they call it. A lot of the neighbors give the full bar size candy bars or whatever. But in true style, every year my husband does this. He gets the candy, puts it in a big bowl or container, and just sits it right outside the house. Like, he's been doing that for years since my children were young, because we would take them trick or treating. He would go with my son and I would go with the girls, and we wouldn't be home. So he would just leave the candy on the front steps, and and that was it. And whoever would come to the house, he'd leave the light on so that the kids can see it or whatever, and they would, we'd come back and all the candy would be gone. I don't know if one person took all of it or if they were considerate and just took some of it, but that is definitely something that he would do. And so seeing it out front today was hilarious. Like, yep, there he goes, putting that candy, just leaving it out front for them to come get it on the front steps. But I remember one year when we lived in Virginia, and I think it was right after my mother died. It might have been the year after my mother passed away, and my son played little league football, and his games used to be very far away, like an hour drive. And so we would be gone all day on a Saturday. And so this particular Saturday, it was October 30th. And I remember my daughters were cheerleaders, and we were at the football game, and we went out to eat afterwards and just were hanging out, whatever. Nobody was home. And the next day, which was Sunday, it was October 31st, and we thought it was going to be Halloween. I mean, that's typically the day of Halloween. So my children dressed up in their costumes and whatnot, and we were waiting around, because usually what we would do is kind of wait until it got a little bit later, after a certain amount of people would come to the house, because in Virginia my husband didn't leave the candy out because it was too rural, and you just didn't know what kind of animals might kind of creep up. So we would stay home for a little bit and wait for trick-or-treaters to come by. But on this day, no one came by. We didn't see any cars, we didn't see any kids, nothing. So we were like, what's going on? What's today? We kept asking, and it was like, okay, it's the 31st, but what's happening? And so my husband decided to go into the town to see, like, what's going on. So he went into town, and when he came back, he said, "Yo, Halloween was yesterday." And I said, "Yesterday? How was it yesterday? Today is the 31st." And the town didn't want to celebrate Halloween on Sunday. They didn't want the children to go out and dress up or do anything. So they changed the day to the 30th. But we didn't get that memo. And I was thinking, why wouldn't the elementaries, because my kids were young. So I'm like, why wouldn't the elementary schools at least send a flyer home or something letting us know that they were changing the day? And so my husband took the candy that we had for the kids that didn't come, and he left again and went back out into town and went to people's homes that we knew and just gave them our candy and was like, "Listen, I'm about to bring my kids through. Just pretend like it's Halloween, like it is, and can you give them this candy?" And so he came back home and he scooped up the kids and he was like, "We're gonna go, go trick or treating." And he took them into town to the stores where he gave them the candy. and he took them to some relatives' houses and friends' homes, and that's how my kids went trick-or-treating that year. And it's so amazing because even though it was so different, they don't remember the background story to that. They like I was talking to my daughters, like, you remember when, your dad this and she's like, I don't remember that. She remembers going trick-or-treating, but she doesn't remember that Halloween was canceled. Not canceled, but the date had changed. And so I think that that's so interesting. I know we didn't make a huge deal about it in front of them because we didn't want to take that, excitement away from them. And maybe that's why they didn't really remember it in the way that it happened. And it just seemed like a regular Halloween. Because I remember them being in the vehicle because I went with them, out. And every time they got out and came back with candy, which is candy we actually bought, but it is what it is. Um, they act like it was the first time they ever saw that candy. They were just happy to have it, just happy to be out. And, that's what memories are all about. It's not always, everything has to be so big and elaborate. Sometimes just being with your children, just having them see how calmly you make it through situations is what really matters. Creating those memories anyway, because we could have just been like, well, they missed Halloween and it is what it is. Well, y'all could just eat the candy that we bought. But, we still wanted to make it special. They were still relatively young and we wanted them to have that experience. So, we went the extra step and it didn't really cost us anything more. We already purchased the candy to give out, and just so happened we had to give it out to our children. Well, through other people, but I guess that's a return on investment, I suppose. But it's still, letting them have those memories. And so there's safe ways that you can do things as parents with your children. Again, I remember when our children were younger and the movie Polar Express. Do you all remember the movie Polar Express? If you do, put a one in the chat. If you're looking at this in the replay, put a one in the comment box that if you remember Polar Express, the movie. Well, we used to have Polar Express parties every Christmas. So the whatever day Christmas fell on, the Saturday before, Elevate with Vern remembers, yeah, so the Saturday before Christmas, we would always have our children's friends come over and have a Polar Express party. And my parents were always with us during that time, right before. Hi, Big G, BG, how you doing? Oh, that's Brandon. I didn't know it was you. How are you? How you doing? So, um, we were we had Polar Express parties. So because my husband was retired, during the week we could go Christmas shopping during the day when our kids were in school. We could go to the movies during the day when the kids were in school. So we always had a real flexible schedule like that. But our friends didn't necessarily have schedules like that. So we always said, you know what? The Saturday before Christmas, we're going to let everybody bring their kids over. And then the parents can just go and do whatever they want. They can go Christmas shopping, they can go to the movies, they can go to lunch, dinner, whatever they want to do. But we got their kids all day. And we would tell them to bring their kids to the house with their pajamas on. And they would come, I think, like around maybe like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and the parents wouldn't come back till about 8 o'clock that night. So we would have them all day. And I have three children, and all of my kids, for some reason, which is just the craziest thing, most of their friends were one of three. And all of the kids were all the same age, basically. So just think, even if they each just had one friend over, that's one times three. So that's my three, 6, 9, what, like 12 kids. But we would have about 15 to 17 kids, because then a couple of neighbors would come over, some one-offs would come over too. So we would have between like 17 and 20 kids, let's say. But my parents were there. My mother was still alive, and she would make homemade pigs in a blanket. Do not ask me how, but they were so delicious. And she would make other things like finger foods that little kids like, like little personal pizzas and just all kinds of goodies that kids love, homemade cookies. And then we would have a a Christmas egg hunt because we would say, Santa should be on a diet and he needs more protein to go and deliver the gifts to everyone. I'm good, Brandon. I'm good. I'm glad that you're doing good. Good to see you here. And that's so wild you catching my live. And so we would have them find the eggs, and the eggs would not be decorated. And then when they would get all the eggs outside, and we're in North Carolina, and so I don't know, miraculously the Saturday before Christmas, the weather was always really, really nice, nice enough to not even have to have a jacket on. And so they would go outside, do the Christmas egg hunt, bring the eggs back in, and we would have all kind of paint and stickers and stuff, and they would decorate them. And then my mother would make these ice cream cone cakes. So she would take a ice cream cone and pour her cake batter inside of it, and then bake it, and then it would rise up and it would look like a little ice cream cone, but it was cake. And so they would frost in the cake and put sprinkles on it. And, so it was a good time. And then maybe an hour or so before we knew their parents were all going to come back, we would put on the movie Polar Express. And by then, especially the younger ones were exhausted, and it was just always a good time. And again, it really was not a heavy lift. We could have done it if my parents weren't there, because that's just the kind of parents we were. Our house was always filled with kids, multiple children. But these are just some really neat ideas that, if you are a parent or a grandparent and have young kids in your life, things to build up on those memories. Don't take it for granted that things are just going to happen. You want to develop those remember when moments. So for me, bobbing for apples, when I think of Halloween and the fall, I think about bobbing for apples. And I know when my children think of Halloween, they think about trick or treating and going to get pumpkins and just real nostalgic type things. And I love that even in the front of our house now, we have small pumpkins out there. My husband didn't carve them this year because usually he will do that with our youngest, but she's in school now, but she'll be home. I think maybe this weekend, and maybe they can carve one of the pumpkins for Thanksgiving. But just create those memories and try not to go too far off the cuff of what you experienced as a child. I see you in the building, East Dad. How are you doing tonight? It was good to see you earlier in Vern's live. That was really cool. She had a really good live tonight. Always has good lives. So, but just try and create those memories so they can have those remember wins. And I know things are different now. I remember there was a point when you had, and it still is like this, where you have to check the kids candy because you don't want anybody to do any harm to the candy, putting razors in it, and just you don't want the candy to have been tapered with. And I get that for sure. But, still try to let them be kids. Let them have some joy, even if it's you having your own fall festival party on this day where their friends can come to your home, where they can dress up and just enjoy themselves and be kids. Let their hair down and just laugh and play. That's what it's all about. Yeah. Vern, baby, Vern, disco. That's cute. That might be a good name, Vern, for one of your memberships. Disco Inferno. Let's put this all on fire. Let's be hot in here. Absolutely. So, I'm just sharing some back in the day memories and hopefully giving some people some ideas, some suggestions. I really like the book character party though. I always thought that that was really nice. But I do find as parents, a lot of things, especially again, because times have changed, that, we trying to, keep our kids safe, absolutely, and keep them from a lot of things. But a lot of those things were great experiences that we had. Um, Everything is not all bad. You have to keep your child prayed up for sure. You know, you have to pray for them, pray for their safety, and that's each and every day, regardless. No matter where they live, no matter what they're doing, just always praying for their safety. So with that in mind, you got to know first of all that they are God's children, and they're just your gift. And you have to take care of your gift, but you have to also groom your gift and prepare your gift for that real world that they will all enter into at some point. So you don't want them to have that sense of fear, because then they may not want to try new things. They may be so hesitant, and then they miss out. They, will miss out on new experiences, new opportunities, because they're so afraid of saying yes and just going for it. And so a lot of times I'm finding that parents are keeping their children away from things that they've actually done. And if you're a young person and you're listening to this, if you're in your teens or if you're in your 20s, and one day you might want to be a parent, be mindful of the life that you live, because your child might follow in those footsteps. And how mad are you going to really be? Like, if you don't change your life around, how are you going to tell them to change their life around? Because you are their first role model. You are the first person that they're seeing. And trust and believe, children see everything. They really do. They pay attention to the things that you do not think they're paying attention to. They absolutely see it. So you definitely want to be mindful of how you move as an adult. If you don't have children but you're around children, maybe your nieces and nephews, they are looking at your every move. And that's why it's important to effectively communicate with them, be active in their life, do things with them, so you're creating those great memories and encouraging them to try new things. I remember my center child, I call our middle daughter our center, because she's exactly 20 months younger and older than my other two. And she would, especially in new environments, I remember being at the playground and everybody else would run off and play with the other kids. They kind of, children are interesting how they can size up other kids and know that that's probably my age group. And I would see groups of girls here and there that were around her age, and I would tell her, go ahead. And these weren't necessarily complete strangers. Some of them were schoolmates or lived in a community, and I would be like, go over there and play. And she never would. And I'm not saying you want to put your child in harm's way. You want to make sure, are you good with those girls? Are they good girls? Are they nice to you? Are they do they say good things to you in school? I always would ask those questions, because when you're hesitant, it's like, wait a minute, what's going on? And when she would say, yeah, they're nice or whatever. And then I would tell her, listen, in life, people aren't always going to give you that invitation. They're not always going to hand deliver you an invitation to come into the circle. Sometimes you got to just go up in there, and I would encourage her. Sometimes I would walk her halfway over, just to make sure. But it's like, sometimes you have to tell your kids that life is not always about the invitation. Sometimes you have to seize the moment and just take it, and take your hat off and go on in there and just start talking too, or laughing, or whatever they're doing. And typically, especially in younger kids, they'll open it up and they'll let you in. But yes, assertiveness, absolutely. You have to be a little assertive. And I'm glad that I did that with her at an early age, because now she can flow in any circle. She absolutely can just, mingle and talk to the best of them at all levels, all ages, all socioeconomic backgrounds, all of that. And I know that if we didn't do that at an early age with her, and also having her witness us do it, it would have been even that much challenging. Yeah, it's fact. And so let me tell you, so today it was so funny, because we went shopping. There's this store, they sell cooking supplies. It's called like Lay Shetty or Lay. CHE something. I can't remember the name of it, but they sell like stoneware, beautiful pots and pans, stone pots and pans. They come in different colors, like beautiful reds and blues. I can't remember. It's a kind of like an upscale cookware. I don't even know, but my daughters, they like to make really interesting dishes. I don't cook at all, really, but they like to cook interesting dishes. And so she was in there, and she was also looking for housewarming gifts. So when she sells homes, she gives her clients beautiful housewarming gifts. So my center child, she graduated from North Carolina A&T with a marketing degree, and she's also a realtor. And so again, when she has buyers and they close, she gives them really nice gifts. So this her last house, she gave them this beautiful monogram insulated bag that could be used for travel or for the beach, and candles she put in there, and fresh home fresheners, and a beautiful blanket, just different things. So she wanted to buy these like ceramic, I don't even know, pans, I guess, but they're not pans, they're stone, made out of stone, and they come in three different sizes. And so usually I talk a lot when I meet people, it's almost like not meeting a stranger. And sometimes, especially if she's ready to go, she'll stand there and not say a word. And I know that she's very social. So I'm always like looking at her, wondering, why aren't you saying anything? And she'll just stand there and I'm talking to the people, whatever. Well, today it was the reverse. And she was so animated and talking with the salesperson, and the salesperson apparently was also a realtor, so they were talking about different things, and I was just standing there. And plus, because it was a cooking kind of store, I really wasn't interested. And she kept glancing over at me like, "Mom, jump in," and I'm looking at her like, "No." And so it was like the table was turned, and it just put me in the mindset of how she is sometimes when I'm the one that's more talkative and she's ready to go. So I don't know. It was just really good seeing her in that element. And it just reminded me so much of myself. And I guess, of course, as children, you do oftentimes mimic your parents' behavior. So, again, whatever behavior you are exhibiting, if that's not the behavior you want your children to eventually mimic, don't do it because they will. I know with my mom, she would sometimes have these sayings or these gestures or something. And inevitably, I would always catch myself doing exactly the same thing. And eventually I started telling her, like, "Mom, please don't do that," because I know I'm going to start doing that. I know it, and I was very aware of myself and things around me. But as parents, please be aware that you you what you do will show up again in your child. Yes, it surprised me, Eastad. It did. It surprised me. Whenever I hear her talking to clients on the phone, I'm always shocked at her tone because it sounds exactly like mine. The way she conducts business sounds exactly like me. And when I tell her that, of course she says no. Of course she says no. But it does. It just she just reminds me of my younger self. And when that's how I am with all my kids. I just sit back and look at them because my son reminds me so much of my husband and of my father-in-law, just the way that he is very kind of laid back and observant and loves to read and is always just very satisfied and comfortable with himself. And just reading a book is good enough for him sometimes. And I like to sit back and look at those similarities because it really proves that that's what happens. So if you want your children to be groomed in a certain way, make sure you're grooming yourself as well. Not everyone's background has been perfect. Not everyone may have received the same type of care, but the fact that you may know that about yourself, about your upbringing, that's a self awareness. So after that, all you have to do is self manage that. How are you going to change that narrative? How are you going to change the the direction of your life? And what type of behavior, what type of person do you want to exhibit so that others can see you in a different light, especially your children? Yes, very professional. She is I'm very impressed with her. And I love it that she's 23 years old and her clients are of all ages and cultures, and she's able to communicate effectively with all of them. And it's really good to see. It's really really good to see. It is a blessing. BG it really is a blessing. I don't take it for granted. My husband doesn't take it for granted. Very grateful because it didn't have to be, for sure. Your children most of the time become your life. Yeah, they do. And I've said this before, where in life you're born looking like your parents. You look like your mother or your father or a combination of the two. But when you die, you look like how you lived. And so you want to live your life in such a way that you actually look even better. You look peaceful, you look accomplished, you look satisfied, you look loved, you look wanted, you look compassionate, you look empathetic, you look encouraging, you look strong, you look loved. And that's how you want to live your life, so that at the end, that's how you look, at peace. And you don't want to have that anger and hostility, and so just feeling like you're being held back or held down. Because at the end of the day, the thing that's holding you down and holding you back is yourself. Because if you are in a situation where the other party is making you feel some kind of way, you're giving that other party so much control over your life. And you don't want to let someone get you out of your character, out of how you want to be, how you should be, who you are to be, because of the way that they are making you feel, because you're giving them a lot of power if they can make you feel some kind of way about yourself. So you really want to be mindful of that, and what you allow to infiltrate into your mind, and what you actually hold on to. When I speak to my workforce development participants, and if they are having a challenge with their supervisor or their manager, and it's always that other person, like, oh, they don't let me do this, they won't do this, I can't get this, I boom, boom, I'm about to leave this job, I'm not going to do this anymore, I'm going to go, I can go over here, I'm going to do over there. I'm like, listen, you giving that situation a lot of power. You going to let that situation take you out of character so much that you're willing to lose being gainfully employed. You're willing to lose your paper. Like, really? That other person or that other situation is going to still live, still get their paycheck every week, still, get their benefits or whatever. And you going to be home mad again, even more mad at yourself, because now you got to try to wait for unemployment, or try to find another job, trying to find a new situation. And guess what's coming with you? You you're coming with you. And as long as you're coming with you, where you're not aware of how you're showing up, then it's still going to be the same thing, because you're going to let the next person infiltrate your mind and take over and just have control over how you move. And so that is something that you really, really want to be mindful of. You can't control what people say, do, or think, but you can control how you respond. You can control what you say. You can control what you do and how you think. And as long as you have that control over yourself, what other people say and do can't really affect you. You have no control over that. So just really, really be mindful of that. All right, Eastad, thanks for stopping through. I appreciate you for stopping through. It's always great to see you. Always great to see you. Thank you. Yeah, I just said, you know what? let me try to wind down a little bit from Vern's live. Elevate with Vern. You are so dope. You really are. Um, but I said, let me come on here live. I just started thinking about bobbing for apples for some reason. And just those times growing up, I saw this salt the other day in the supermarket, and it was salt that you use when you're making homemade ice cream. And my father used to make homemade ice cream when I was growing up. Every summer when we would go to the beach, he would make it and have it in the freezer. So when we came back from the beach, all of us, the whole family, we would be able to, um, eat some of the ice cream. And he would always make strawberry ice cream, and it was just so, so good. And I didn't even know that he used that, you use salt to make homemade ice cream. And then I started thinking, like, man, I don't think my children ever had my father's homemade ice cream. And I wish I would have asked him, and he's still alive, so I'm gonna ask him, but how do you make it? I wish I would have paid attention when he was making it. I mean, now he can give me the directions and share with me the ingredients, but it's not the same as being right there and handing him the items to pour in or stuff like that. So that's another thing is, to invite the young people around you when you're doing something that is traditional or something. If they love something you make to eat, have them come around you while you're making it, because you have to pass that on. And it's more than just giving them the written ingredients and the directions. It's seeing the love that you put into it as well. I know for me, because like I said, I really can't cook. And my friends and family on Facebook are always like, I can't believe you can't cook. Your mother used to cook so good. Are you serious? What's going on? And that's because growing up, I really wasn't into food in that way. I mean, I ate food to live, of course, but I just was not interested in being cooped up in the kitchen. And now I really wish I did, so I could have gleaned some of my mother's skills, because my mother was one of those no measuring cup, no measuring spoon. She just knew it from sight, like about how much to put and pour into everything. And her food always tasted consistent. It wasn't like, oh, mom, you missed the ingredient on the pie this week. Or, it was always, always, always really good. And, that's just something that you have to sit up under someone to learn how to cook like that. And I wish I would have done that. And I don't know, I just didn't have the patience for it. But I really wish that I would have took the time out. So if you know young people again in your family, in your circle, encourage them to take the time out, and maybe make them take the time out to come and sit underneath so that they can learn. It wasn't like I was doing anything bad when my mother was cooking. I loved reading, so I would typically either be reading or outside, but I always was the person that cleaned the kitchen. So I may not have cooked, but I always cleaned, and I didn't mind. I loved cleaning the kitchen. I love having a clean kitchen. But I wish I would have had to sit there. I could have sat in the kitchen with her and read instead of being in another part of the house. But those are things that you can't get back. Once they're gone, you can't get back. So I just wanted to pop in here, and I hope you all got a nugget. If you got a nugget, leave it in the chat. Let me know something that you're taking away from this live. It's the end of the day. It's been a long day for me, productive day, but a long day. And again, I'm just trying to wind down from Vern's live. Vern is so energetic and just so motivational, inspirational, and really encouraging. If you haven't checked out her channel, again, I highly recommend you check out Elevate with Vern. She did leave her link to her channel here in the chat. Let me see if I can find it. Yep, there it is. Definitely check her out. You will not be disappointed. She's always bringing some great tips and sharing valuable nuggets that you absolutely can implement into your life right away. She has been on YouTube for a while and has done extremely well, and definitely is not one to keep all the good news to herself. She shares information about what's going on the YouTube channel, like on the YouTube streets, as they say, so that you can understand, especially if you are trying to be a content creator. She's very supportive of you smaller channels, younger channels that are trying to make their way. And just I've been very appreciative of all the support she's given me. So definitely check her out for sure. But I hope everyone has had a good evening, a safe evening. If you've had some trick or treaters, I guess my husband will pull in the bucket, or it's like I don't even know. It's not even a bucket. He just has. It's not a box, but it's a thing, and he just has all the candy in there. So it'd be interesting to see if people came through. But he did have the front porch light on, um, so he has to go out and get that, and then we'll call it a night. But everyone, stay safe and remember. Listen, I promise you, when you practice is key. But when you practice so hard, when you practice as if you're really playing a game. Practice the things that you're weak in so that they can be better, so you can sharpen those skills. Practice the skills that you are great at so you don't lose those skills. And when you put all of that together, you will always win when it's time to get into the game. When it's time to go and play the game for real, you will play it to win. Everyone, stay safe. And it was great. Oh, let me see some more things before I leave. I see BG is saying shout out to Vern. Yes, definitely check her out. You will definitely enjoy her content. And she has some really good guests on her show, BG. She has some interesting business owners on her show, motivational speakers on her show. You really would glean a lot from her. Yeah. Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Yes. Yes, thank you, Vern, for being such a dope moderator. Thank you so much for being supportive. All right, everyone. Until we speak again, I'm gonna try to drop another video tomorrow. Look, I'm trying to be on my grind and do the thing. Bring you all some great content. I have a lot of information I want to share, and let me put it out here. So this is part of my legacy. So my future will be able to check it out. But all right, thanks for stopping by and hanging out with me this evening. I am Coach Sherry.